What is the quickest way you've seen someone fuck their life up? New kid gets hired. 18. Just started college. Good looking. Well dressed. Whole 9 yards. First week on the job steals $2,000. Doesn't even do it smartly. Just loads up some cards and hands them to a friend. Directly in front of a camera. 2 years later we still can't figure it out. Steals just enough to make it a felony, right after turning 18, and in the dumbest way possible. It's like he intentionally wanted to screw up his life. Knew a kid in high school who pretended to be one of the prettier girls in school and texted this desperate geek asking him for naked pictures. He then proceeded to send the pictures around to everyone at school. He's still in the sex offenders registry for distributing child pornography. Someone I know drove drunk because it was only a few blocks. Killed 3 people and is now in prison for 20 years. Friend's birthday. Got super drunk. His friend offered him a ride home when he wanted to leave. He ghosted. No one knew where he went. He drove home. Or tried to. Hit a tree on a road with a speed limit of 30. Police said he must have been going 70. They think he passed out. He's not smart anymore. He's Forrest Gump now. Which means he's still smart enough to know he's dumb. And remember what life used to be like. He can walk, but he know he'll never play sports. He gets upset when he forgets names. He's never going to be independent, and he knows it. He's attempted suicide at least once since the accident. Don't drink and drive. That's so sad. To be stupid enough to not be able to do normal things, while being smart enough to realize you're stupid and can't do normal stuff you used to do. Dang, that's mental torture right there. I didn't personally see it, but about 8 years ago some friends in my social circle were at a party, and some drunk dude had a gun and decided he wanted to play Russian roulette. He pulled the trigger and shot himself in the head. His family packaged it like a suicide, but there were plenty of witnesses. Guy I knew was pointing an unloaded gun at his pregnant fiancée and pulling the trigger. You know, just for fun, cause that's something people do for fun apparently. The fiancée got really upset at him, for obvious reasons. And the guy's response is, what's the big deal? It's not like it's loaded. Then he points the gun at his own head, pulls the trigger and kills himself. A developer at my job, here on a work visa from India, was hitting on the young Latina cleaning lady, asked her to come to a hotel with her, and then whipped his dong out. Did this at the office under cameras. She pressed charges, and he is being deported back to India, losing his job making 6 figures. Solid way to freak up your life in a matter of seconds. Friend of mine decided to pay for an apartment for him, his father, stepmother, step-sibling, and mother, all under the same roof. None of them worked. Poor bastard. Worked with a guy who inherited a few $1 million, a successful business and a livestock farm after his grandfather passed away. It all went up his nose within a year. That's why it's called blow. You blow right through it and your money. Was at a University of North Dakota hockey game. There was a moment of silence for the opposing team's coach because he lost a family member. If I remember that correctly, some idiot kid decides this is a good time to yell frick her right, and the PE was publicly vilified for the rest of the year. There are reasons we publicly shame people. This is one of those. My brother was a felon at age 18, distribution and firearm. In and out of prison jail for 15 years. Age 33 he has a complete turnaround, does the church thing, becomes a contractor, making like $150k a year his first 3 years. His wife and he get in an argument. She leaves. He gets pinned by a bottle of tequila. His neighbor comes over to check on him, as he is now in his basement firing his illegally obtained and owned AR-15 at photos and trinkets, etc. Well, the neighbor called the cops. Brother ends up in a standoff with them for a few hours. Now he is looking at a plea bargain of 8 years. Way back when they didn't have urinalysis testing in the Navy or any branch of service. That changed in 1982 shortly after I re-enlisted. I quit smoking weed. We were warned of the probable consequences if we got caught after the first Navy-wide test. One of my friends, a shipmate who worked directly for me, decided to not take heed because he only had less than 3 months left before his enlistment was over. He was caught on the next one and was given 45 days restriction and extra duty, loss of half a month's pay for 2 months and reduction in rank. Frick them, I remember him saying as he smoked a joint on the pier 30 days later after he found out he had to take another urinalysis the next day. Instead of doing his last 2 months then getting his honorable discharge, he was out 2 weeks later with a bad conduct because he told the captain to suck his dong and threw a punch. He was given a choice. Take the BCD or go before a court martial, then off to Leavenworth for a couple years. Screwed up this life. Don't go to Leavenworth. Source: live in Leavenworth. Not the penitentiary though. A guy I used to work with told me his story when I asked him why he never drove in. One night, he and his buddies got loaded at a club. As they're walking out, he noticed that there was a limo sitting outside with the motor running and no one in sight. So he hops in and tells his buddies that he's going to joyride it around the block. Unfortunately, he's so blitzed he ended up crashing it into a light pole 100 feet away. Pause and think about the charges that are already mounting. So he gets out and starts to stumble away, at which point the officer who was waiting further up the block to catch potential DUIs runs down and cuffs his ass. Then he opens the back door and about 8 terrified high school students hop out. Turns out they were on their way back from prom and the limo driver had made the stop to swap drivers' shifts. So, in the space of about 5 minutes, this moron was facing no fewer than 5 felonies, and almost 20 years later still doesn't have a driver's license. A month after graduating, the valedictorian of my HS took his graduation money and savings and drove to California where he bought a crap ton of weed, pills, and cocaine to bring back home and sell. Got caught coming back somewhere in Iowa. Got sentenced to 15 years in prison for felony drug trafficking across state lines, which makes it a federal crime. If he was the valedictorian, the rest of Yale must have been extra special. I was playing at a neighborhood friend's house. Bunch of dudes riding around and whatnot. A kid wanted to do a flip off a ramp on his bike. He had no helmet either. Kid attempted it and fricked it halfway. Landed on his back with bike on top of him. Like you could hear the sickening crunch on impact. We called paramedics. He couldn't do anything except lay there crying. My friend's mom didn't let me go home while they were loading him in the ambulance and tried to keep us inside. Come to find out he's paralyzed from the neck down. He couldn't do anything except lay there crying. Jesus, that's a tragic image. So helpless and so young. Graduate student in mathematics at UIUC, early 2000s. Crossed a busy street, got hit by a car and died. No drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Probably got lost thinking about her research. Just like that, bam, it's over. This is how I worry I'll die, and I'm hardly ever thinking about anything important. My friend's sister was engaged to a great guy. His only flaw was he was too tough to wear a seatbelt. Crashed his car and died. A few weeks later she found out she was pregnant. So now she's a single mother. So that's at least 3 lives he fricked up by not wearing his seatbelt. I'm a funeral director. I used to work with a guy who didn't see the point in wearing seatbelts. Said he's seen enough people dead wearing seatbelts that he thought they were a con. Didn't seem to grasp the fact that he would only be called to RTAs where there was a fatality. Skateboarding without a helmet. Fell. Suffered a traumatic brain injury. Spent months in rehab and therapy. Has seizures related to injuries. Successful mechanic. No longer able to work on machinery, which was his passion. Now lives in his very small hometown with his parents and has an unfiltered personality which makes building meaningful relationships almost impossible. 18-year-old kid threw a brick through my store's front window and took off with $20,000 of cannabis. Ended up getting caught an hour later. He will probably spend 20 years in prison. My ex started smoking crack and in 6 months time we lost our home. He now faces 7 felony theft charges and we broke up a 20-year marriage. He fricked his, mine, and our children's lives for the selfish decisions he made. We were doing the best that we had ever done financially and now I am starting over from scratch and our kids are embarrassed by their father who used to be a great dad. Some guy in my school collected nudes from as many girls in the school as possible, either getting them himself or from friends. He put them all on a public file sharing website. The link got around school and one of the girls found out and turned him in. School and police launched a full-scale investigation and he went to court. They lessened his child P charge to something lesser and he got 2 years probation and kicked out of school. He got off light, but such a stupid way to ruin your life and reputation. My ex admitted to regularly raping a girl starting when she was 8 years old in a phone call with the girl. 8 years after it started, He did not know she had contacted the police and they had gotten a warrant to record phone calls. He got a 45-year prison sentence. There was a kid at my high school, football player, funny kid, sorta dumb. We were seniors and ready to go off to college. He was going to play football at a school in the next state over. Then he got into doing prank videos and essentially posted videos of himself vandalizing stores, walking up to random people and saying stupid things to them, making messes in public places, etc. His college football coach found the page and kicked him off the team before he even got to college. Since then, his Insta page has been taken down. The kid isn't in college, and I feel sorta bad, but also, he's so dumb. Why did he ever think posting videos of himself doing harmful pranks would end up well? Some people go for a long time without ever hearing the words, "No, you can't do that." Sadly, the first time this guy heard it was from this college's football coach. Group of high schoolers went hill hopping in this dude's Jeep. 2 of them weren't wearing seat belts, so when they hit a tree going 80 miles per hour, the driver died and the other guy broke his neck and all of his limbs. The worst part, the driver's girlfriend was riding shotgun, wore her seatbelt, and survived basically unharmed, at least physically, but now she's gonna have to vary that mental trauma for the rest of her life. My little sister graduated high school and got accepted into a very good nursing school in Boston. Had everything going for her. Met a guy that was a drug junkie. Got addicted and stole everything she could from whoever she could to supply her habit. She passed away from an overdose almost a year ago. Still can't understand why someone would ever try that crap in the first place. Such a waste. She was an awesome person. A dude drove up and tried to cut in front of several people in the drive-thru line of a Whataburger. A security guard approached and told him loudly several times to back off and go to the back of the line. Instead of going to the back of the line, the guy decided it would be a better idea to ruin the rest of his life for a burger. He tried to run over the security guard, who ran out of the way, to force his way further into the line. At this point, I don't know how he thought he was gonna get away. He had trapped himself in the drive-thru lane. He never got his burger, and he sat at the window waiting for it until the police came and arrested him. If he wasn't fricked already, he made sure he was once the police arrived. He was extremely uncooperative and had a brief standoff with them. They had to tase him. I'm pretty sure he got a DUI in addition to whatever kind of attempted assault charges they were going to press on him. Oh, also, when they finally got him out of the car, it turned out he was only wearing underwear. Guy did drugs at a party in high school in a rural area. Got caught, got clean before 18, got into construction, worked his way up the chain, owned several companies, 2 beautiful houses, beautiful wife, twisted his knee on a job site, went in for knee surgery, didn't disclose he'd been an addict 30 years prior, thought 30 years clean removed him far enough. The painkillers they gave him brought the addiction back in full force. He returned to using drugs and stopped running his construction businesses and working to pursue being high. His wife took the kids and left him for being emotionally absent, and he defaulted on his mortgages and lost his 2 homes. He lost everything and ended up living out of his car. These dogs are hugging and they want to hug you too. Comment hug me if you want some dog hugs. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.